Hello and welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to be doing a starting steps video here as the United States of America. This run is going to be a little bit more RP, but just to speak of the USA in general terms, they do have really good resources, very, very strong companies, and have kind of the unique situation of having extremely good migration while also being powerful. In particular, this enormous arable land in a lot of their places, which is currently unused or doesn't have peasants in it, will give them an enormous migration attraction. So you get to be the melting pot of the world, really leaning to migration, have excellent resources, excellent laws, and excellent tech. And this is kind of the overall broad strokes United States experience. What we are going to be doing is we are going to be doing the absolute most capitalism run possible now here in this latest patch of 1.9, where you can do a lot of cool stuff. The companies are really, really fleshed out. There's a lot of content with charters of commerce, and so we are going to be doing a capitalist-oriented run. But the big thing is our community has discovered there is a way to get onto debt slavery while simultaneously being on multiculturalism. So the dream of an ultimate capitalist hellscape where you can sell your body, for just another loaf of bread, this is now going to be possible. You can sell yourself into slavery. Normally, per the game rules, this is not possible, but there's an exploit that allows it, which we are going to be doing later on in the run. Which kind of brings us to the elephant in the room, and I'm not talking about the Republican Party, which is that this looks a little bit different. There's journal entries in here that are not vanilla journal entries. And also, you may have noticed specialty laws are featured here as well. The nominal separation, freedom of conscience, unless I'm mistaken, is not vanilla. And I do believe that these are part of the mod Hail Colombia, which we are going to be playing on. Now, we were a host for ModCon, and one of the mods we did cover was Hail Colombia. And so we have this 2.5 minute kind of trailer for it that we are going to show now. Got permission from the mods to do it, or the modders, and so we are going to show it, but it features a bunch of content for the United States of America, and I think moving forward, just generally speaking, I don't really like the way Reconstruction's done in vanilla. I really was impressed with Hail Colombia last time I played it, and so generally speaking, if I'm playing the USA, gonna probably lean into playing Hail Colombia, so we will be showing off this mod throughout the run, but let's take a look at that trailer now.
In 1836, the United States of America stands as a beacon of liberal democracy, but its future has yet to be determined. Setting forth from the East Coast, the Americans are intent on expanding from sea to shining sea, but how far this manifest destiny will take them remains unclear. With an expansionist president and the population whipped up with colonial fervor, there is little to stop the United States from conquering all of North America, showing no mercy to anyone in their path. But contrary to its name, the United States is a divided country. In the South, the slave power reigns supreme over a great underclass of enslaved African Americans, while in the North, support for total abolition continues to build. Westward expansion will stretch this conflict to the breaking point, forcing the United States to answer the question of slavery one way or another. Even if the Confederates are crushed, it will be a long road to Reconstruction. The forces of white supremacy will rally and attempt to claw back every shred of power they can grab a hold of. As the economy turns towards an industrial future and railroads cross the continent, the American robber barons become the wealthiest individuals ever to walk the earth. In this gilded age, corruption runs rampant, businesses boom and bust, all while mass migrations swell the population with new faces and new cultures. In the face of these pressures, the progressive movement brings forth new ideas of social reform and improvement. Women organize for their rights across the country, and charismatic leaders champion the cause of a square deal for every American. Even so, more revolutionary ideas continue to find fertile soil in the mines and factories of the United States, as fundamental questions of ideals and identity remain unanswered. Shall American gunboats plant Old Glory on distant shores? Who gets to be an American, exactly? What will become of this great and turbulent land? In Hail Colombia, the dawn of the American century is yours to shape.
Poor Mexico, so far from God, so close to the United States.
So one of the most distinctive features of the United States in vanilla is having really good companies. And we're not talking about William Crapp and Sons. We're talking about stuff like Carnegie. Now the new General Motors is going to be quite strong as well, I do believe, with the rework. But we are also going to see a lot of stuff that is not vanilla in here, where we are going to see additions from the mod. Stuff like the Coca-Cola company is definitely not vanilla. Very cute, giving leverage generation. We're probably going to Sears, another example of in mod, kind of a little bit of an interesting one. I think that it is very rare to have two consumer companies two consumer industries within a single company, and this one can even add on the third in also getting Glassworks, which is very it seems relatively strong. We might go in for that company, and we do like having access to more companies here because this is our capitalist hellscape run. We have Carnegie Steel, which is a classic of vanilla with open hearth process, and it will also give us additional coverage on the arts academies. Generally speaking, there's several companies that give now coal, iron, and steel now that you can even add into one of these three. So Carnegie Steel has gotten a lot worse than it was before, and we see an alternative for us in Colorado Fuel and Iron, which does add tools, but we would lose access to prestige tools. The company we're going to go for first, though, is going to be Lee Wilson and Co., which is what we're going to look to slot in relatively early. It does require we build up in Arkansas, either cotton or logging camps, and so this is what we're going to do. But there are a few other companies in here that are not going to be in vanilla. I do think, let's see, William Cramp and Sons, that of course is in vanilla. I think Armor and Company is not in vanilla. Macy Harris Limited, not in vanilla, might be one we go for. Agriculture Throughput is a little bit interesting, and I think that 5% manufacturing industry throughput that we get on vanilla is stronger, but it'll be interesting to kind of parse together and see what we could do from the perspective of getting a lot of coverage here. Standard Oil, I'm not sure how we feel about it anymore, but it is very strong for railways. General Electric, with the buffs to the electrical companies, this is a little bit interesting, and it also gives motor industries throughput. And then the Ford Motor Company, we're almost certainly going to slot this in. Very nice that it does give rubber coverage, because we are going to be getting wood from the cotton/lumber company, which is also going to give us railways. So we're probably going to do Ford Motor Company, something like this, and then we are also going to be leaning into this one that gives us a lot of fabric. And in particular, we're going to be really good at making cotton. We are going to be going debt slavery, so we're going to be leaning into this, but also some of the flavor from Hail Colombia, you could see that they do have a lot of room for extra agitators. There's a lot of characters, and so that's pretty dynamic when it comes to the politics. But something that we just want to point out is we will get a little bit of some different modifiers on our interest groups as well. For example, Republic of Virtue, not in vanilla unless I'm wildly mistaken. I think Go West Young Man might be in vanilla, but this is going to be our source of migration attraction. Notably, we don't receive the migration attraction on the Intelligentsia, instead giving American exceptionalism. I do believe that this is modded as well, but you will see a lot of these are a little bit different. We get research speed in several different places, and so this is a little bit interesting, making it so that you will be, with the mod, slightly more technological advanced, but this is what we were thinking of. We have one peculiar institution, and while I do think we get rid of this if we get off of slavery, maybe we don't pop the event with the way that we're going to be doing it, but we do get plus 15% plantations, and this would be doubled to plus 30% plantations throughput in particular, which really gives you a very strong comparative advantage in cotton, which we might look to lean into. We also get the additional investment pool contribution efficiency. Instead of 10%, it is 15%, doubled to 30. Standard loan interest rate bureaucracy on them. We do get production research speed, and a slightly different on our industrialists gaining prestige and loyalists from political movements, which is considerably weaker, but also in some sort of sense, pushes us more towards aristocrats, except the capitalists, the owners of the companies, will always be capitalists anyway, so that's going to be a bad thing for us. We do see more society research speed in here, alongside some conversion and some throughput bonus, which is kind of par of the course, and a standard-looking industrialist. I'm pretty sure we're standard on the trade unionist, which is good, because they are very strong just in terms of what you see there with vanilla. Now, you see House divided. We have a ton of journal entries in here for this, but we're not going to be looking to get rid of slavery too terribly quickly, so we will begin removal of the natives. Sorry, guys. We will... yeah, we're not going to pay you anything. And then we will have the Jackson presidency popping event as well. Nearing the end of his second term, Andrew Jackson has left an indelible mark on the history of his office. After asserting, also with kitchen cabinet, after asserting the powers of the federal government in the nullification crisis, he has aggressively moved to seize the American Indian lands in the South, sparking the war in Florida, even as the Supreme Court rules against his actions. While his Jacksonian Democrat agenda moves forward, the matter of slavery continues to smolder in the heart of the American Republic, which we, of course, will see with the House divided events. We're going to be taking a look at these in particular. We do want to kick it down the road, though, because our exploit requires that we can go onto multiculturalism, and also just general in the U.S. It's easier if you have already unlocked human rights before you ban slavery, because of the timing window you have with which to accept African-American pops enough to be able to get them as primary culture. So we do want to be able to go onto multiculturalism before that. I think we do want to get an additional company before we start pushing towards this, but we might kind of let some of the industrial techs go by the wayside. Bessemer process is before Open Hearth. Open Hearth is a little bit late for one of the companies we want, so I think we're going to go for the very strong water tube boiler tech as our kind of opener here, and then look to swap back to primarily doing techs inside of the society tree here. So the mod starts out with going for universal suffrage, and while I don't think it's as strong as suffrage, we're going to let this go through, mainly because I think this is more on theme with the RP of the run. We are going to make sure that we save enough authority to get this minus 25% enactment time bonus, but we will also put it in a consumption tax on services. You can see our budget's much more in the positive, and we are going to encourage manufacturing industries in New York. We are also going to be looking to move our capital to New York as well. The capital in DC is not very good. We can't move it because we're at war, because we start out as a Diplo play. Shout out to Andrew Jackson here on that one. We will move the capital to New York eventually, though. For our construction queue, we're building a few construction sectors, looking to spread them out a little bit in New York and Pennsylvania. We could build Turbo Tall, but then we're going to look to add trade centers to New York, make New York a rather large hub of activity, and in particular, we do have quite strong bonuses to help us with that in terms of state bonuses. Now, as you can tell, we have more than the standard vanilla fare. So let's look through some of what we have going on. I think in vanilla, the American chestnut forests, I'm not 100% sure. It used to just give hardwood output, I think 15%, but now we see logging industry throughput on this. I don't know if this is a 1.9 change or if this is the mod, but this is quite a bit stronger, I think, than just... I think 10% logging industry throughput is better than 5% hardwood output, but we will also have Niagara Falls, which is vanilla in New York, eventually making New York good in that way for electricity, and the New York Harbor, which is going to give us really good trade powers. So we're going to look to push that type of thing in Massachusetts and New Jersey, and so we will have this more capitalist area up here in the north. Now, I don't think vanilla has this black belt modifier with the cotton plantations building throughput, but this makes us leaning into cotton plantations early on even better than before. So what we're also going to add is in Arkansas, we're going to add a few more cotton plantations, and we can look to really trade this and specialize in this, featuring kind of the very powerful trade of 1.9. So why don't we add a couple trade centers here in Arkansas as well? We're putting them in Arkansas so that we can get the company. Coming in here, we do see seasonal tornadoes in a lot of places, giving negative state construction efficiency. So it's not just all plus side for the United States. The Mississippi River is a feature of vanilla. It's going to be an important one, giving you additional MAPI alongside this kind of route, which you also get additional MAPI from the harbors. And then we have a couple extra traits. Effective native resistance is going to be in place in a lot of these other places. This is some of the flavor here. You can see we get some agriculture in the north west here, and a Puget Sound. I'm not sure if Puget Sound is in vanilla. I don't think that it is, and I think that San Francisco Bay is not in vanilla, and wow, that's a big trade capacity modifier there, isn't it? 30% trade capacity modifier, so that is going to be the new biggest in the game, alongside 10% market MAPI, which is going to be extremely strong. So it looks like they have decided to really take a swing at things with the California getting quite strong bonuses, and so that is quite a bit interesting. We do finish off the Cherokee, I mean relocate the Cherokee. A small group of Cherokee negotiators have signed a treaty agreeing to vacate their ancestral lands. Principal Chief John Ross has protested as the treaty has not yet been given. Chief John Ross? Alright. As the treaty has not been given agreed to by majority of the Cherokee, regardless, it gives us a legal basis, which that's all we need, baby, to begin removal of an entire nation. And the tears begin to fall. Not like this. The pain of our history. But what we will be able to do now is we will be able to change the capital to New York as we wanted to. We are also, right now, improving relations with both Great Britain and France because we do want to be able to do better things with them. We will come in here and take a look at what we can get in terms of declaring interests and maybe look to shuffle them around. I think we are going to be firm believers in the Monroe Doctrine and probably look to dominate the Americas and leave the rest of the world relatively alone. So we're going to put all of our interests in America's first, even though this is probably not a very optimal way to play, and you would want to have interests, with England and France in these types of areas so that you could get a better trade advantage on your trade centers. Hot damn. Have you ever seen a more attractive and handsome president than Martin Van Buren? Surely this is not a vanilla character, because we would have heard of him by now. But boy oh boy, do we like having a literary cautious guy. Literary giving you an enormous amount of infamy decay, and cautious giving you minus on infamy generation, which we will be looking for another war to be had here. Probably going for one of the states down here, looking to subjugate them as long as other people won't join against us. This is our current taxation level and wage level. I think that we could probably increase taxes and look to build more construction sectors, but we won't do that quite yet. We'll do them as they finish, as they are starting to come through for us now. We will make for ourselves a nice block, got a nice looking emblem here, and we are going to be going for external trade as our primary principle here. The reason we are going for it is I really rate this quite a bit higher than internal trade. I do think the trade capacity and trade advantage is going to be pretty strong for us, and the additional diplo we need to make moves from the influential trade center is going to be nice. It looks like, did they buff it back up? I think it was lower last time we checked this, or when we were doing our Russia start. I think it was 0.3, so that's quite a bit better. That's like 60% better, so that is going to be quite nice. And we will also ignore trade advantage penalty from interest, which is going to be nice if we are stacking all of our interests not in the best places to stack them, and instead stacking them in the Americas here. And so we are going to do this. We do need to free up a little bit of this. So why don't we stop improving relations with the French here, and after we do this, we should be able to form a block, which is going to have the downside of making everyone upset with us, minus 30 relations. This will cause a diplomatic incident with both France and the UK, because anytime you dip down a level, you are going to suffer, so hopefully we don't roll anything too bad. You can see this minus 30, it's going to dip them below 20, and so we will get a diplomatic incident with them and with France, and you can see that has the attitude changed? No, we don't roll a negative incident, so that is going to be good for us. We have an American removal chance, and we are just going to start removing the Cherokee from their rightful homes. You know, America is a free country, and they're free to leave. John Ross here will be protesting us. Principal Chief John Ross is going to be Oh, he's a historic character. Oh man, we were making a joke about his name being John Ross, but is he actually historic? Okay, shout out to John Ross. He's presented a petition to Congress asking them to void the treaty which will compel the Cherokee to relocate to the Indian Territory. His petition is almost as many signatures as the entire Eastern Cherokee population. You mean everyone is signing the petition? A treaty is a treaty. We cannot rescind it once it's signed. That certainly sounds like the capitalist hellscape way. What is this other one? Our conscience compels us to void the treaty. Yeah, you know, we care about documents not righteousness. So we are going to pick that one and send them to the Indian Territory here. We also have this interesting journal entry in the Constitution of the United States. It does look like it gives us a few modifiers: legitimacy from including the head of state and government, minus allowance, a little bit of party whip on ideological incoherence. I think that this actually helps us to be legitimate in most cases where the USA normally has two really huge parties and being legitimate is a little bit of a struggle. This does seem to be helping us out with us. Also, lower speed on institution change and minus maximum tariffs on exports. No export tariffs, and so we do have some things going on here, and notably, if a law is unconstitutional, it will really upset people if we go for it here. You can see a list of unconstitutional laws, and then a list of very unconstitutional laws. I noticed that slavery is not on these, because, of course, we don't have the 14th Amendment. Womp womp. Instead, we have slavery. So that is what will happen. Only natural-born citizens as well will be eligible to be elected president. So we can't do something like get Napoleon from France or Bismarck from Germany onto the USA throne. I mean, into the presidency. So changing up our PMs as we should at the start of a run, it is a little bit tedious, but what we are going to do is we are going to be checking every single place that has one of these American chestnut forests. Since they have a hardwood output bonus, it's important that these be producing hardwood. So for all of these, we will be focused hardwood, and then places that do not have any type of bonus here, we will instead be focusing them on softwood, so our our market doesn't get too jacked up. But in particular, it is very likely that we will be exporting a whole lot of lumber alongside cotton, or sorry, fabric, as we kind of proceed through the game, because this is going to be one of the first companies that we choose to focus on here. So we get another journal entry here. It is part of Hail Colombia, where we are going to be getting the House Divided Gag Rule added to the United States of America. I think that what we're going to do is we are going to look to lean into the Southern planters, at least at this point in time. So we will be doing that, and we get the Gag Rule, where while it is enabled, slavery laws cannot be enacted, which is not exactly what we want, because, so this is to prevent us from going on to, slavery banned, but eventually we're going to want to make a move towards debt slavery, so hopefully this doesn't mess up our exploit too much that we are going to be doing later. We will not offer them an assistance, except for the assistance of our bayonet. We are so sorry. Shout out to Andrew Jackson. More blood, of course, on our hands. The last bands of the Chickasaw have made their way west across the Mississippi, suffering through harsh conditions and privations all along the route. Some did not survive the journey. Some is, that's kind of, alright, we'll say it like that. Some, a few, not most, but some, but many, and so we do get them swallowed up as America continues to manifest its own destiny here to the west. So we get Commander Commends Civic Coalition, which is going to give us an opportunity to send this gentleman, who is currently a Southern planter. It is going to give us an opportunity to put him in government over John Calhoun, who, of course, John Calhoun's a bigot, but he's also not very popular, and as things go, with the Democratic Party, we would kind of rather the yeoman farmers do a little bit better, because we don't really like John Calhoun, and truth be told, while we like this guy more than John Calhoun, we don't really like him either, but he has more popularity, and so it will be a little bit easier for the Southern planters to get clout. It's not going to make the biggest difference. Our voting law, the fact that we're going universal suffrage, is going to make a way bigger difference, but I think in general, we do want Martin von Buren to be doing quite well, because he has these two really strong traits, and we want to have him be kind of president for as long as possible, which is why we are leaning into him on the events. But what we're going to do is we're just going to say that this guy can say what he wants, because we'd rather have this guy that people don't like in charge. That way we kind of clear the path a little bit more for Martin here. Can't say we're very happy about the last election here. We get a Daniel Webster instead of Dear Martin. A terrible shame. This guy does not have the juice. In fact, he has imposing, which increases infamy decay, which is actually terrible to have. And so, anti-expansionist. I'm not sure this is vanilla. A little bit of extra influence. That seems cool enough, but we will have to put these guys into government. Now, they will be just fine with some of the things we're doing, but what we'll probably want to do is get rid of imposing somehow. And so we're probably going to want to try and find, wow, no petite bourgeoisie, guys. So this guy's just going to be the dude. He's going to be the dude for some time. He's imposing. We don't like him very much. And hopefully no funny business happens to Mr. Webster here. So we went in to slot in our company, but we had made the mistake of not incorporating Arkansas on game start. Womp womp. That's going to mean a little bit more time until we can get the company we want, because even though we have enough of the cotton plantations in order to put this in, it does, of course, require an incorporated state. Forgot that we have some unincorporated states kicking around. I think a couple more in vanilla than we do in the mod, though. So, since we can't slot in that cotton company for some time, which I'm not even sure is the best, having kind of tried to map out our way through what companies we want, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go with just generic tools. Really do kind of value this 5% manufacturing industry's throughput. This translates to a lot of throughput or effective construction. You know, it's not just like 5% on one industry, it's 5% on a whole ton of industries. So that is quite strong, and the precision tools maybe gives like 3% total increased throughput to your entire economy, something like this. So this is pretty solid. We can add on iron, but we're planning on doing a company that has iron anyways. So this is maybe a little bit of a weird point where we're not sure whether we want to add on iron or not, but we're going to go for the American Metalworks. And with this, we have our first kind of opportunity for capitalism here. So we are going to try and get investment rights in other countries. Places like Great Britain and also France and stuff like this are going to be very valuable, and it looks like it won't even require that much effort on our part. It's just some trade privileges, some agreements to maybe not transfer or not tariff or subvention particular things, which we are interested in right now, and we will be able to try and sneak this out from underneath them. So that should be pretty good for us, and so we'll try and get investment rights on some big parties here to really get our company going. So one thing we're also going to be thrilled to give away here is hardwood production. This is because we're going to slot in a company that deals with this. We have a ton of hardwood output bonuses, and so we're going to really overproduce hardwood, and so hardwood will get very collapsed in price. And so let's move this around a little bit. Let's not deal with the coal, and they should say yes to this. We'll put this in for 10 years on Great Britain, and what we will get is we will get a new diplomatic treaty where we are intaking money from being from sending out... Wow, why is our tooltip not hovering? Bueller? Okay, I don't know why the tooltip or the sub-tooltip is not popping up, but the idea is here we are getting paid out this 9.5k for our hardwood, and it's only costing us 7.7k in our own market, and this is just going to get better and better for us as we continue to push more and more wood in these places that have these chestnut forest bonuses, which is definitely going to be something we are interested in doing and plan on doing. And so anytime we can send hardwood to anyone as part of an agreement, we're going to really strongly prefer doing that. That way we can lean into the wood. Wood is, for those of you who don't know, just an insanely efficient industry per construction. It only costs 200 construction, it employs 5k pops, it de-peasants pops very, very quickly, and it's just very, very efficient. And so being able to not only lean into it, but have a company for it, and then also have a bonus for it that is on your terrain, is just like all this lining up is going to really be kind of the kickstart to our economy. It's a bit unfortunate that we can't go for it right away with our company or go for the wood company we want right away, but this will be fine. Also, as we are getting investment rights from other people, we will want to do this. That way we can make a regional HQ in their nation with those investment rights to send back that sweet, sweet investment pool and utilize both their investment pool and their construction. Just the sheer volume of guilt, I feel, at the start of every single USA run, when we do this to the Native Americans, it hurts so bad. The bulk of their Cherokee Nation had been removed to the Indian Territory, and we have annexed all of their ancestral lands. Some small bands of stragglers have evaded removal and still hide in the wilderness. But white settlers, why is white capitalized here? White settlers have white, maybe that's how it's supposed to be pronounced, have already begun to move further into cleared lands. We will put these lands to better use, not like this. but we'll annex the Cherokee here. So they will, of course, leave our power block. But I think that what we're going to do in regards to companies, just to kind of talk ahead of our plan a little bit, I think we're going to go for Coca-Cola. I think it's not a very good company, but this plus leverage generation, not a common modifier, and maybe it's just way easier to pull people into our power block this way. We're going to go for the sugar plantations as the add-on, because this will, of course, be Carnegie Steel, and you can't spell vertical integration without vertical integration, and so this is why we need to go Carnegie Steel, because no one's more capitalist than Carnegie, except for Rockefeller. Rockefeller, actually, incidentally, he had his own tax bracket. There was a time in American history where there was a tax bracket where there was only one person inside of it, and that was John D. Rockefeller. But Carnegie was pretty cool because he kind of invented vertical integration, so we can't really have a capitalist run without him, and he allows the add-on of the Arts Academy. He's also, incidentally, a pretty good character, because I think he has literary, but this company's quite nice with both of the more important mineral resources, steel, which is kind of good, but the fact that we get prestige steel on top of that's great. Railway building throughput's a really nice modifier, and then, of course, we will get the add-on of the Arts Academy, which is kind of meh, but we can export art if we want. This is fantastic. I don't think we've ever had this happen before. Chile, our subject, is declaring on Bolivia. We were just looking to declare on Bolivia, because going for Bolivia and subjugating them is quite nice, because you get their subjects at the same time, so it's effectively cheaper infamy. But with this, they're transferring South Peru as a primary war goal, and also returning Antofagasta. So what we can do is we can actually just help them out, and then Bolivia will get isolated, Peru will like us more, and we can, alongside this, release North Peru, and when South Peru and Iquicha all get released, it'll just be one nation. I can't remember if it's North Peru or South Peru. I feel like it's South Peru. Ooh, it's been a while. I think they all unify under South Peru, but if they all unify under North Peru, this won't work out the way we want. But I do believe they all unify under South Peru, and so this will be transferred over to our subject. So effectively, we are getting this entire coastline in some sort of sense for freebies, good dealsies. So we will go for the war goal, and we will go for liberate, and we will, not liberate Amazonia, liberate subject of Iquicha, and go for that. And also, at the same time, we will get to help out them in their war, because they would not win this otherwise, and so they would get enforced on. So two birds with one stone here on the Bolivia play. We will choose to go west, young man, and map the American frontier. We know just the person for the job. We will send gainers. And he will go and map this territory. This is, of course, needed for the Oregon border dispute, which I think is in vanilla, which will allow us to get this territory off of Great Britain. We will need to maintain good relations with them throughout until we resolve this, giving us kind of the northwestern portion of the United States proper. We will say welcome to Texas, but, well, actually, we don't mind about antagonizing Mexico. We're going to attack them soon, so we will welcome Texas to America. Texas, of course, being a very, very strong state to have, with 500 arable land once it's fully colonized, including a lot of cotton plantation potential, which is going to be good with us leaning into this. So this leaves me a little bit confused, because we just resolved a war, and I don't know how exactly they're declaring a war again here. Maybe it's because they're annexing a subject of Bolivia, but I do believe they're not supposed to be able to declare on Bolivia again. Bolivia had backed down, so they didn't liberate North Peru, so North Peru should still be part of the Bolivian market, but I don't think Chile is supposed to be able to deck on North Peru here, and it seems like the AI can, but they're really going for it, so I guess shout out to them. We will offer to negotiate support. Except we have the truce with Bolivia, even though Chile doesn't. This seems like some sort of bug. Curious to see. I guess we cannot influence this rumble, which is a bit unfortunate, because something like this. Yeah. We do want to see Chile win this, which is going to be a little bit rough. I suppose what we could do is we could deck on Argentina ourselves to make it harder for Argentina to be able to help out here. Peru is quite a bit stronger, though, but I don't think they're stronger than, yeah, they're not stronger by enough than Bolivia, so it's looking pretty bad for them, and it's looking like Antofagasta will get returned, and some other stuff will get returned, or conquered. Yikes. The expedition continues and has reached as far as Utah. We get a Hail Colombia event 4, the Missouri Mormon War. Tensions in Missouri between the mainstream Protestants and eccentric sect calling themselves the Latter-day Saints have boiled over into open violence. Protestant vigilantes, I almost said villagers, have committed massacres and clashed with Mormon militias. After running afoul of state troopers, the entire sect has now been forced out of their homes by the local government, fleeing to Illinois. So this does seem like quite a bit of a movement from Missouri to Illinois up here, and I don't know my history that well on this front, but is this the start of the movement, interesting, of them eventually moving over to Utah up here, which would be a little bit interesting because there's a ton of Mormons in Utah, and I do believe that they moved there because of persecution, like, Missouri Mormon wars. We'll say such violence is unchristian, but they are well on their way. We are also on our way to getting a lot of this colonization done. We are starting to really progress west, and of course, manifest our destiny. There is a journal entry for Manifest Destiny, which requires us to research nationalism from sea to shining sea, of course. And so after we finished joint stock companies, which we moved behind water tube boiler because we didn't think we'd be able to slot in a company we wanted in time, I think we will go for nationalism so we can unlock that. Even though we're not spreading it, this will be good for us. I think that with 100 construction, we can also push a little bit some levels of the university. We're going to push to level 10 here, and I think that when we hit around 150 construction, we'll look to push the university the rest of the way towards economies of scale cap. This has been forever for us in terms of we have been under sub 50 in terms of our legitimacy, and this isn't because we're taxing super high. We would reduce this if it would bring us below 50, or sorry, above 50, but we've been sub 50 for some time, which really slows down the enactment time, which is unfortunate because we're trying to float authority to pass laws faster, but we still are on universal suffrage. I think this is the longest we've spent with such a good position to pass a law without passing a law. It's finally gotten to voting, but I think we're going to look around and see if there's some good uses for our authority, probably adding consumption taxes at this point in the game. Taking a look here, we can add consumption taxes on stuff like liquor, but we'd prefer to tag the lower strata more so. Well, actually, we'd rather tag the upper strata, rather than the lower strata. I was just about to say we don't want to tag, we don't mind tagging the middle strata, except we kind of don't like it here. So we could even revoke services, so we target the middle class a little bit less, but the luxury items aren't really yielding that much, though. Maybe we just hold tight and just get our faster enactment time, just kind of begrudgingly. Chile managed to win that war with the help of Brazil. Now, this border war is not our fault. This is entirely the doing of the AI. We are going for New Granada here, looking to secure ourselves a relatively fast annex on the Panama Canal. That's one of the reasons why we haven't or chose not to give trade rights to this company. Otherwise, we probably would have, because we're eventually planning on getting our trade centers out in the Panama Canal. We also spot a bear as part of our progression. These guys are in Utah, scouting the lands for the future Mormons. And so we are generally on all these events just kind of choosing the most conservative one. And so we'll just play things safe, just looking to get this as best as possible. I've found in my very low sample size of actually doing these expeditions that generally the safest option tends to do pretty well. We also see a few other, things that we can see in regards to journal entries that we will be moving along towards that are part of the DLC, or not the DLC, it feels like a DLC, part of the mod in terms of flavor here. We also have Indian Wars, which require a few techs for us in the form, or a tech from us in the form of repeater, and also getting some of this colonization going a little bit further westward. We do complete our westward mapping here. We find the Buenaventura River. That doesn't sound like something that we named, but our guy will come back and we will get some prestige, and we will check and see if we can do another one of these. I do believe we have to map the west a couple of times, and it's not just a one-time thing. That seems a little bit of an too easy a job to have gotten in one go. We get map the American Western Frontier, but I do believe we need, we just need to be at peace. Peace will soon come to us as soon as we land them and push them. I do think we are making progress here. Yeah, it does look like we're making progress, but this war has also been taking quite some time now, so we might have to add some ships so we can throw our weight around a little bit more. So in the following election here, the Democratic Party, which we have preferred, does get elected, but unfortunately, it's not Martin in charge. It's not Martin, it's John. John's not the guy. A bit unfortunate. One of the reasons why we were going for dedicated police force over local police force is we were trying to decrease the clout of the southern planters, but I think that's something that's going to be pretty interesting for decreasing their clout, and is going to be like interesting in the texture of this run here, is going to be the cotton plantations, right? This is our building that we have the most levels of in terms of what we have going for. Actually, it's just the building we have the most levels of. I was going to say for arable land, but it's just the building we have the most levels of. Currently, the majority of the ownership is going to be manor houses, see? When we get the opportunity, very soon now, as we finish this company, well, in 5 weeks, as we finish this, when we get the opportunity to slot in this new company, that is going to cause capitalists to start buying up those cotton plantations, which is going to be really great for us, because that's going to super turbo weaken the landowners, which, well, it's kind of mixed bag for us, but the landowners are going to be giving, in terms of bonuses, I do think the peculiar institution is one that we kind of care about and kind of like here. The plantation throughput and cotton plantation throughput, that's 30% throughput, that's a ton. And -2 plantation employee standard of living, that can be a kind of a good modifier moving forward, considering the pop growth changes in 1.9, making it so that you want to stay between 10 and 15. But that's a little bit of a digression here. This bonus is not going to be all that good. So when we move and put in this company, the very interesting thing is that we get to turbo weaken the southern planters by virtue of having a company, because the company, their ownership will be 100% capitalist. Company ownership does not allow for any aristocrats, and so it's kind of this curious thing in regards to the USA, where in theory, if you put in a tobacco company and a cotton company just at game start or very early on, you can really, in theory, curb the southern planters quite strongly, which is kind of cute. So we will now slot in Lee, Wilson, and Co. to kind of take aim at those landowners. We'll also give them investment rights so they can buy stuff overseas. We're pretty keen on the fact that they can add logging camps, and we will also add railways on top of this. Now, Standard Oil also gives railways, and I think that this overlap is going to be a reason why we don't go Standard Oil later, despite Rockefeller and despite memes. We might have to go Standard Oil anyways, but this is an interesting company. It is new in 1.9, and this is vanilla, and so I do think that this is a bit interesting one. Cotton, getting prestige cotton is going to be quite good for us. It is both a consumer good and a industrial good, but it gets used in several things here. We will have a little bit more throughput on the furniture and the textiles, really not a lot of throughput. I think that we could even subvention this, but the assets that they have here should be very, very profitable. They have the cotton plantations in Arkansas, and we're looking to see them just get a lion's share. Let's check in on the assets of our other company right now. They haven't gotten to kick around too long, but we can see that they do now have a regional HQ in West counties, so this is a brewing, helping this to contribute to our investment pool. If we hover over here, we don't get our pop-ups because there's some sort of weird bug here. Maybe we just have to restart our client, but some of that will be from the regional HQ here in West County, where it is going to be sending some of its dividends in terms of the weekly balance, the reinvestment. This is heading back to us, and so this is giving us a larger investment pool here. You can see that we have a pretty good growth rate on our investment pool. We do need to add some construction, and so what we'll do is we will go up to the 20 stack here, and then in front of this we will be putting down some construction in a few places, specifically places where we have iron production potentials, which is going to include Kentucky and Tennessee, although we haven't gotten to those yet. There's going to be a line of kind of where you can produce iron here in the USA that starts in starts in New York and goes all the way down to Alabama. So if we take a look here, you can see what line we're talking about. And this is going to be, generally speaking, good place to put your construction. Michigan's going to be good. And then also North Dakota is pretty good. There's some other places around here that do have some. California has a little bit of iron, if I'm not mistaken. And so this will also all be good as well, but we don't have access to those territories just yet. So taking a look at our trade here, we do see that we are currently importing softwood, which is really not a position we want to be in, but one of the reasons why this is occurring is because we kind of have a warped differential between softwood and hardwood. However, we do have these bonuses, right, where we get bonuses specifically on hardwood, so we do want to use the hardwood PM here. Otherwise, we would just swap, some PMs and shift things up so that we don't have a huge softwood deficit. We also now have a company that gives us a ton of construction speed, bonus construction speed, towards building logging camps. And so this would get resolved in a pretty good fashion if we could have the auto queue pick up some logging camps. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to look to not add any more to the queue. We're going to cancel some auto expands we had set up on logging camps, and what we're going to do is we are going to make a move that is maybe okay. This is the type of move that is like I'm not sure if it's good. It's probably like a little bit of a mixed bag. I think that it's good that we're tariffing imports here, so we don't over tariff them, or so we don't over import here. But what we're going to do is we're going to subvention hardwood. So this is going to cost us money, but I think it's going to force our queue to build more logging camps. And this is an example of like subventions in theory like look really bad on paper, but if we can force our queue to build more wood as a result of pushing up hardwood and start to equalize some of this price and free up our trade for other things, because we can manipulate our queue to pick up this softwood much faster than it would before, this might be an example of how we are able to leverage this into another advantage. We're not getting more construction, right, when we subvention this hardwood, but we're effectively getting more construction by virtue of making our queue build the logging camps when we have a huge construction bonus towards them. Right, we have a 67% construction bonus when the queue is the private queue is picking it up, and I think the private queue will pick up a lot of these if hardwood is also really expensive. So we are going to put in low subventions for export here and hope that the hardwood price goes up. Currently, it's not one of our primary exports, and we want it to pass up a merchant marine here and at least get into our top 4. If we take a look here, it doesn't appear to be a very big share at all. I don't even think it's like, yeah. I'm not even sure if we're exporting any of it, but hopefully some of this starts to pick up here as we start to export. And if not, we'll just subvention a little bit more. And in this way, we hopefully can manipulate our queue to build a little bit more of these things. Ever since the days of the 13 colonies, the settlers of the United States of America have looked on the lands of the West with desire, lust even, and a complete disregard for their existing inhabitants. The truth hurts. Now a lofty justification for expansion is the beginning to emerge in our national consciousness, that of manifest destiny. It's capitalized, so we have to do it. Proponents of the idea claim that it is not only our right, but our sacred duty to seize and populate the entirety of the great American continent. We will say the birthday of a new world is at hand, and we will, look to add it. It will gain some influence, and we will get a new journal entry here in Manifest Destiny, where we will be progressing, and this will eventually push us towards conflict with Mexico. You can see that we will have claims on all of these lands that are, of course, a proper American clay, and some of them are populated by other people, right? So let's promote continentalism here, which will make some people more radical, but will push us towards being, more of this. Incidentally, anti-expansion, I do believe that this is a trait that we have as well. We see that this is, the anti-expansionist character trait. I'm not sure if this is vanilla or if this is part of the mod, but in particular, one of our most powerful members here, he died. someone got replaced. We had one of the more powerful members in the Whig Party was anti-expansionist, so when the Whigs were winning elections, we did have someone with the anti-expansion, or was it anti-expansionist trait? Yeah, it was this. So he has the trait. I don't know if this prevents us from doing that thing, but we of course do want to expand and manifest our destiny. And so we will have another journal entry here for ourselves with manifest destiny that will give us eventually claims on Mexico and this type of stuff. And so we will be looking to get that. We will also map the American frontier again here and look to... Gaines did a pretty good job last time, so we'll send him out again. We see a nice reformer agitator here in Mariano, who will join the labor movement, but also we will be able to, at some point, get rid of Calhoun. I don't think, while we're on presidential republic, that we can grant leadership because, well, first of all, we can't grant it because they're not pressured by this movement, but I think that you can't grant over presidencies, but if Calhoun ever loses an election, we can grant it over him, and he will be much better in terms of ideology than Slaver. And also the labor movement has got some things that we are kind of a fan of in terms of what they support, you know, stuff like public health insurance, and also getting onto a graduated taxation or a more progressive sort of tax system. Now, I do think that there's a way in particular to game this such that you get claims on all of Mexico or this type of thing. We're just going to look to play this relatively straightforward, where we've decided as a people that we deserve to go west, and so we're capitalistic people, money-oriented people, and so why don't we at first make an offer to Mexico and talk their language, the language of their color, of their nation on the map, which is green, which is money. So let's make an offer to Mexico here and see what they have to say. They're probably going to tell us to shove it, I imagine, and then maybe we get some progression here on this. Mexico refuses. They do tell us to shove it where the sun don't shine. She sells seashells down by the seashore, and they have rejected our offer to purchase their territory. Jingoistic elements in our administration have already begun to call for war, with a few even proposing that we could seize all of Mexico as a new American territory. We will have that land one way or another. And so here we'll see occupying Mexico's capital state will allow us to dictate terms as we see fit. With a powerful enough concept of manifest destiny, we could seize even more territories. So if we have more progression here on manifest destiny, we will be able to seize more land. So we will go for that, and we will try and make sure that we are getting sorts of thing towards pro-expansionists. So this is what's filling up the bar for us on this group, which is going to, we're going to have journal entries that are going to help us to advance this. I think that we will have laws, professional army, national supremacy, these types of things. And I'm pretty sure there's other stuff we can take a look at. Surely we also just want to minimize the anti-expansion sentiment as well. And so we do want to get rid of these types of laws and fail the Indian removal. Yeah, we're not failing that. They're pretty much all gone. And so, yeah, complete the Oregon border dispute journal entry. That is a more pacifist way of doing it, so we will leave that open at least until we manage to deal with Mexico. So we do have, just trying to highlight some of the flavor that we have in terms of a unique and dynamic system for dealing with westward expansion, other than just kind of the railroaded Mexico claims that you get in vanilla. So why don't we take a look at some of the unique laws we have for the United States here in this mod, where we will have a plus 100% maximum tariff on imports. The American protectionism, or the American system, will allow us to super turbo tariff any sort of import and actually just completely shut down any sort of goods dumping to our nation. The extra leverage resistance isn't going to really matter for us because we have our own block, but notice here, we can't tariff exports here. I believe this is part of our constitution here, is Constitution of the United States, 100% minus max tariff on exports here as well. Now, because we want to be, we want to eventually move towards completely free trade, we will eventually want to get off of this, but I think what we want to do, at least in the short term here, is try and work on the journal entry for Manifest Destiny, which is going to require that we pass some laws here. If we look at the pro-expansion one, we want colonial exploitation and at the very least professional army, and then maybe Nat supremacy or ethno-state, and then we could also get it if we conquer an overseas state, which we weren't planning on doing, but this is something we can do, I suppose. So let's go for starting off with the... Ooh, we can't go for pro-army just yet. So we, in that case, will be trying to see if we can go for different colonization. We cannot. And in fact, who are we going to need in power? Yeah, the Industrialists, unfortunately, there's not a very good way for us to slot the Industrialists in. Two-party system, these guys don't have the laws we want, and so we would have to get rid of this very, very dapper gentleman who's literary and cautious, or find a way to replace this guy with something like a jingoist that would allow us to go for the law that we would want. So in that case, maybe we want to go onto free trade. Let's just double check and make sure that the journal entry for Manifest Destiny does not, on anti-expansion, care about this type of thing, and it doesn't. So we're not going to progress ourselves towards anti-expansion if we go towards this free trade. So hopefully this will help us out a little bit. We do see that the southern planters are all about this free trade because they don't like the protectionism. Very interesting. Alright, so we will get that going, and we are... Let's take a little bit of a look at the trade and see what's happening. And we can see here, we have broken in the top 4 on the hardwood exports, which is kind of what we wanted. We see that I think our wood imports have gone down a little bit. We've been trying to keep an eye on the queue. We've seen a couple logging camps get built, but actually just a ton of this is overseas, which is a little bit of concern, but at the same time, we're getting a very fast investment pool growth. We actually have a huge budget, and so we're probably going to look to push 200 construction here, and just hope that some more logging camps get picked up. We do see the company constructing some things, but they're constructing some railroads. I think that actually what we should have done is we should have just not gave them the potential to build railroads just yet, and instead kind of focused on the cotton and the logging until we had gotten saturated, because they are, well... I'm not sure if we get to build something else here. It might just be that we've chosen to build a railroad and then they get to pick it up. I believe it's the die roll works a little bit more like that, rather than they get to build something and then they choose to build a railroad. So this is actually just probably fine. It doesn't work in an intuitive way, but the mechanics are a little bit weird sometimes, if I recall correctly on the rules. Speaking of the Monroe Doctrine, which we mentioned kind of earlier in the intro, we do get an event here. Under the Monroe Doctrine, we do have a little bit of a blurb for it. The Monroe Doctrine is the United States foreign policy position that opposes European colonialism in the Western Hemisphere. That's our hemisphere. We get to exploit those people. It holds that any intervention in the political affairs of the Americas by a foreign power is a potentially hostile act against the United States. President James Monroe first articulated the doctrine during his 7th annual State of the Union address to Congress. At the time, nearly all Spanish colonies in the Americas had either achieved or were close to independence. Monroe asserted that the New World and the Old World were to remain distinctly separate spheres of influence, rather convenient, and thus the further efforts by the European powers to control or influence sovereign states in the region would be viewed as a threat to U.S. security. In turn, the United States would recognize and not interfere with the existing European colonies, nor meddle with the internal affairs of European countries. This is more or less our thematic intent. The Monroe Doctrine will be violated if a country from outside the Americas targets a country in the Americas with a play, or the other than the United States, unless the target is the subject of the initiator. So we will, of course, not say Nicaragua is no concern of ours, but instead America will not stand idly by, which incidentally gives us a little bit of a progression towards... or I could have sworn this gave us a progression towards the Manifest Destiny. Oh yeah, Manifest Destiny will gain influence. We will not stand idly by. This damages our relations, and maybe it forces us to join Nicaragua. I think that we don't actually want to... I think that we don't actually really want to join, but I would not be surprised if we got a pop-up that forced us to join or something to this effect. We would love them to become our subjects. We hate that Great Britain's doing this, but I don't think we could really go for this, and we don't really want to rumble with Great Britain, so we won't help them out. We'll just, we'll speak loudly and carry a soft stick. That's the one. Yeah. So we see here in the private construction queue, at the very bottom, railways are getting constructed, but not by our company, but instead by the financial districts. I think what we're going to do, since we're floating a bunch of authority anyways, just to make it so that this is less likely to happen, maybe we're going to, for one of our companies, give a little bit of a few monopolies that we're eventually going to revoke, but we'll give monopoly rights here on logging camps, railways, and cotton plantations. That way, we will be able to, and eventually we will remove these. We have to keep them in place for 5 years, but we want these guys to kind of pick up a little bit more and get a little bit more share of the stuff. I think that this company so far is doing okay, and when we're watching the queue is not getting filled up by too many financial districts picking up these things, so we won't give this out, and we'll continue to float the 180 so that we get faster law passes, except we're not passing a law right now, so we could even just do a little bit of this and then look to tax transportation. I think that's going to be a sensible one. Tobacco is really going to hit the lower strata and the middle strata quite hard, and they're below expected for the middle strata. Of course, transportation will hit them really hard too. Let's actually just hit both the luxury goods here and improve our budget a little bit. As far as how much money we're making, it's effectively this plus this, so we're still in good shape here, but a lot of our private queue is not actually building domestically, it's building overseas, and so we have to evaluate this a little bit more closely, because I do think that the overseas things are insane. That send money back to your investment pool. We can't hover this tooltip for whatever reason, it's bugged out. But the fact that these send you back, even though in the short term drain out your investment pool by having investment rights in other countries, I do think in the long term it is going to be good. The Comanche, of course, raid us. Not like this. This is Hail Colombia content here. The Comanche warriors have struck outlying settlements in American Texas. In a lightning raid. Shout out to Blitzkrieg, burning several dozen farmsteads. Although local militia attempted to fend them off, the raiders were able to quickly escape back to Comancheria with many captives in tow. We can ransom back as many as we can, paying 50k. That's a lot of ducats. That's a bucket of ducats. For 16 pops? I don't think so. Or we could do this, where tension will increase, and then they get our pops, at least for now, until we, keep manifesting our destiny westward. We see an opportunity to change our interest group in the armed forces, courtesy of Hail Colombia here, where we can give them the gunboat diplomacy trait here, interest group trait, a 5% prestige from Army power projection, and also a 15% from Navy power projection. Is this just an additional one, or is this replacing something? So let's take a look at what we have on the armed forces right now. We do have veteran consultation. We prefer veteran consultation and patriotic fervor for this, but we're just going to pick the gunboat diplomacy and see how that shakes out. So yeah, that's not going to be good for us as tech would, but kind of a little bit of a cute one, and certainly on theme, so we don't mind it, but we will now have gunboat diplomacy. That's where we say we want those ducats, or we want you to do XYZ thing, and then we just park a navy outside there, and we, it's diplomacy. It's the art of diplomacy. Now, we're going to continue to expand trade centers a little bit. We've started to push them. We did go out of our way to research the tech that makes them 50% more effective in hydraulic cranes. Really kind of a fan of this tech here. So let's see what exactly our market's up to. Still exporting a ton of fabric, more than before. We see that we're still exporting hardwood, but look at this. We're now importing a ton of softwood. Actually, our imports in general have gone way up. That's not a surprise. That's not a surprise because we did get onto free trade, which is going to give us more trade advantage, so we will just be making more money. But unlike the American protectionism wasn't as good for keeping out the exports, this type of thing, keeping out the riffraff, as it were. So this is going to be a little bit of a mixed bag for us. I think that in general, we'd prefer to be a little bit export heavy, but now we can't tariff anything. Look, we can't tariff imports, but that's the cost of the capitalist hellscape. We have to have freedom of trade, freedom of competition. And so if we want to get rid of that, we'll just have to push the wood ourselves. And we're really not seeing too much success with our queue picking up a lot of wood, which we were hoping that they would. We see them pick up some glassworks. In theory, we really want to leverage their construction. I do think that this is an interesting idea in regards to subventions, but it doesn't seem like it's playing out too well for us so far. But I don't think we're paying too much in this. We're only paying 900 for the subvention, so that's really not a very big deal for us. I do think this marks the end of the Native American removal. This was the last, the Seminole removal was the last little bit that we had to do. And so let's click the button and then see, have we gotten rid of it? They've all been removed, no? What's this? The clearing of the East. The removal of the 5 civilized tribes, except for we wouldn't call them civilized, would we? Because we don't believe in any civilization other than our own, is complete. For the good or the ill, we know which one, the matter is settled. Part of manifesting our destiny, as it were. And then we will pray that it will never happen again. Yeah, pretty much. Manifest destiny will gain some influence as well here. And so this is something that we like. Eventually want to annex the Native American territory. And then we talk about the good old days. You mean back before we stole all the land? Back then? Was those the good old days? Alright, we're going to try and get the Democrats in power again. Unfortunately, or we hope that... We really want the yeoman farmers in charge, but I think it's just going to go to Calhoun again. Maybe we actually don't want the election to shake out in that way. We see that the Democratic Party is really crushing the Whigs here, and unfortunately we cannot promote to government someone over Calhoun at this juncture, I don't think. Oh, we can. Even though he's president? Real? Seems like it shouldn't be the case. Okay, well, or we could promote someone to the interest group leader, but then they don't replace the president. Maybe that's how that works. But we can't promote the guy that we would like because womp womp, the group is not agitated enough. But we can actually change things up a little bit. We could get rid of these 2 consumption taxes, do a little bit of this to have enough authority, and then we can come in and bolster the labor movement because we wanted to gain a little bit more pressure on specifically the landowners, and so that'll be good for us, hopefully. And then we will not forget to reduce that back down. Running a little bit of a deficit here, though, now. Hey, we got a little bit of a thing called the Washington precedent. It disappeared here, but it did say Calhoun will not seek a 3rd term because that is not the way that it's supposed to roll. And so instead, we will get this guy replacing the Southern planters as the leader. Unfortunately, yikes, he is reckless. That's additional infamy generation, which is an actively bad trait. Looks like we do have Calhoun in here. I'm not sure if this is a vanilla thing or if it is part of the mod, but that this guy got replaced was pretty cool. But I suppose it doesn't seem like it matters because our president is still this gentleman here. Ooh, but we can do a legitimate government now with the Industrialists in power, which was not the situation we were in before. So now we can go for the proper stuff like laissez-faire as well as a whole bunch of other laws. So we'll have a little bit of a poke around. I don't think we kind of showed this off. This is like halfway in between normal total separation and also freedom of conscience, I think, roughly speaking. We're getting half as much authority, but I think that we have more acceptance from state religion and religious trait type things. I'm not really exactly sure how this lines up specifically with the other ones, other than, or maybe it just disallows the clerical and administrative clergy and is maybe not all that great, but this is a little bit of a unique one here. And we have another IG change here, courtesy of Hail Colombia. You, of course, can see what DLC is pushing what events, where a petite bourgeoisie are embracing a continentalism. Surely you could change the name from petite bourgeoisie, though, if you wanted to really be American rather than French bourgeoisie. The petite bourgeoisie has je suis un chat. Have so far, that's That's French for I love capitalism. Je suis un chat. Have so far largely favored the developing of the urban centers of the United States of America in lieu of territorial expansion. With the growing influence of Manifest Destiny, many among the middle class have come to support a moderate amount of expansion, largely focused on securing ports in the Pacific. So we will get the Empire of Liberty ideology here for them, where they will like national militia, kind of annoying because we do want to go pro-army, and they will also like frontier colonization. Interesting. They do become more loyalist here, though, for us, and we will be able to take a look here and see that if we look at the Petite Bourgeoisie, they will have this new Empire of Liberty trait in here, alongside kind of some more normal-looking ones. Anyways, we have been, so far, kind of progressing, kind of looking for a little bit of RP plays, looking to move towards our truly capitalist paradise here as part of our starting steps, trying to shift around our laws, playing it a little bit slow because we don't want to make a move where we are going for abolishing slavery until we can get onto multiculturalism right away. So that is a little bit of a ways away in terms of how we have started this open, but also really just trying to showcase this Hail Colombia mod. I really do think it's a fantastic mod. We tried to pay a lot of attention to kind of some of the various things. We did expand out quite a bit. We were a little bit less focused on it, but just kind of the normal Monroe Doctrine, subjugating everyone all over the place, specifically for the purposes of developing a lot of principles quite quickly, but not expanding anywhere overseas. We might have to for the Manifest Destiny, because this is conquer an overseas state is something that is valued here. So maybe to stay on theme, we just push out from Liberia or something like this. I'm not sure exactly how we feel about conquering an overseas. Actually, it just said overseas. We could go after Uruguay and some of these small states down here. So maybe that's how we look to push Manifest Destiny in that direction before we eventually have a rumble with Mexico, which I think will probably be next episode. But again, trying to showcase the mod. We'll probably publish this on Monday for Mod Monday. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You know, do the YouTube algorithm thing. Hit the notification bell. And other than that, have a good day.